You are standing in the most expensive prison ever built, and you paid for it yourself. Look around. The walls are painted in soothing colors. The bars are invisible. The guards wear the smiling faces of customer service representatives. And the beautiful thing, the truly magnificent thing, is that you call this freedom. You call this convenience. You call this progress. But what if I told you that every swipe, every click, every frictionless transaction is another link in a chain that was forged almost a century ago? What if the comfort you feel right now is the same comfort a lobster feels in a pot of slowly heating water? This is not a story about technology. This is a story about control. And to understand how we got here, we need to go back to a moment in American history when men in expensive suits realized something profound. They realized that you do not need to lock people in cages made of iron. You just need to make them love their chains. You need to make the chains so comfortable, so convenient, so utterly indispensable that the thought of removing them becomes unthinkable, terrifying even. The year is 1933. America is drowning. The Great Depression has turned the country into a wasteland of broken dreams and empty pockets. Men who once wore suits to work now stand in bread lines wearing the same suit, but thinner now, threadbare at the elbows. Families are living in tents made of scrap wood and tar paper. Children are eating flour paste because there is nothing else. And on Wall Street, in the offices of the banks and investment firms that helped create this disaster, men are having a very different conversation. They are not talking about how to fix the economy. They are talking about how to make sure this never happens to them again. Not to the country, to them. Because here is what they learned from the crash of 1929. They learned that when people have cash in their pockets, when people have savings, when people have the ability to say no, they have power. And power in the hands of ordinary people is dangerous. It is unpredictable. It is uncontrollable. So they set out to solve a problem. How do you separate a person from their money without them realizing it is happening? How do you create a system where people voluntarily hand over their wealth, their time, their freedom, and thank you for the privilege? The answer came in stages. It came slowly. It came disguised as progress. First, they needed to change how people thought about money itself. For thousands of years, money was physical. You could hold it, you could count it, you could hide it under your mattress or bury it in your backyard. This physicality created a psychological barrier. When you handed over cash, you felt it leave your hand. You felt the weight of the transaction. You felt poorer. And that feeling, that tiny moment of pain, made you think twice, made you ask yourself, do I really need this? Can I afford this? Is this worth it? But what if you could remove that pain? What if you could make spending feel like nothing at all? This is where the story really begins. In 1950, a man named Frank McNamara was having dinner at a restaurant in New York City. When the bill arrived, he reached for his wallet and realized he had forgotten it. The embarrassment he felt in that moment, the shame of not being able to pay, sparked an idea. What if you did not need cash at all? What if you could simply sign your name and settle up later? He called it the Diners Club card. It was not credit in the traditional sense. It was a charge card. You had to pay the full balance at the end of each month, but it was the seed of something much darker. By the 1960s, the bank saw what McNamara had started, and they refined it. They weaponized it. They turned the charge card into the credit card. Now, you did not have to pay the balance in full. You could carry it forward. You could pay a minimum payment and let the rest ride. And here is where the trap snapped shut. Because they added interest, they added fees, they added penalties. They turned a simple transaction tool into a profit engine. But more than that, they turned it into a psychological weapon. See, when you swipe a credit card, something happens in your brain. Or rather, something does not happen. The pain center, the part of your brain that fires when you experience loss, stays quiet. Studies done decades later, in the early 2000s, would confirm what the banks already knew in their gut. Paying with credit does not hurt the same way paying with cash does. It is abstract. It is distant. It is tomorrow's problem. And tomorrow never comes, does it? Tomorrow just turns into another today, where you are still in debt, still paying interest, still trapped. But credit cards were just the beginning. They were the proof of concept. What came next was the infrastructure, the system, the cage. In the 1970s and 80s, America underwent a transformation. The shopping mall became the cathedral of a new religion. Suburbs sprawled outward like concrete spiderwebs, each one designed around the automobile, each one dependent on consumption. You could not walk to the store anymore. You had to drive. You had to buy gas. You had to maintain a car. And where did you shop? In big box stores, in chain restaurants, in franchises that looked exactly the same whether you were in Maine or California. This was not an accident. This was urban planning as social engineering. The walkable neighborhoods of the early 20th century, where you knew your butcher and your baker and your tailor, where money changed hands between neighbors, where community meant something tangible. Those places were systematically destroyed, sometimes literally bulldozed to make room for highways, sometimes economically starved of investment until they withered and died. And what replaced them? Corporate chains, franchises, brands. The illusion of choice masking the reality of monopoly. Think about what this means. In the old neighborhood, in the walkable city, you had relationships. You knew the guy who fixed your shoes. If times were tough, maybe he let you pay next week. Maybe you helped him move furniture and called it even. There was flexibility, there was humanity, there was trust. But in the new model, in the suburban chain store model, there is no relationship. There is only the transaction. There is only the barcode and the cash register and the credit card terminal. You are not a neighbor, you are a customer. And a customer is just a number. Now, let us fast forward to the late 1990s. The internet arrives, and with it comes a promise. The promise of connection, the promise of information, the promise of freedom. We were told that the internet would democratize everything, that it would break down barriers, that it would give power to the people. And for a brief moment, maybe that was true. For a brief moment, the internet was a weird, chaotic, beautiful mess of personal websites and chat rooms and forums. It was human scale. It was decentralized. But the same forces that build the credit card system and the suburban sprawl were watching, and they were learning. They saw the internet not as a tool for liberation, but as a tool for extraction. A new frontier for the same old game. By the early 2000s, the consolidation began. The big platforms rose: Google, Amazon, Facebook. They offered convenience. They offered speed. They offered everything you could want, right at your fingertips. And all you had to do was give them a little bit of information. Just your name, just your email, just your browsing history, just your location, just your contacts, just your photos, just your thoughts and dreams and fears and desires. just everything. Here is what they understood that most people did not. Information is not just power. Information is prediction. If I know what you bought last week, I can guess what you will buy next week. If I know what you searched for, I can guess what you are worried about. If I know who you talk to and what you talk about and when you talk, I can build a model of you, a digital puppet that dances the same way you dance. And once I have that model, I do not need to convince you to buy something. I just need to show you the thing at the exact moment when you are most vulnerable to buying it. This is not advertising. Advertising is a billboard on the highway. You see it or you do not. You ignore it or you do not. This is behavioral modification. This is Pavlovian conditioning at scale. Every time you open an app, you are pulling a lever on a slot machine. Sometimes you get a message from a friend. Sometimes you get a like on your photo. Sometimes you get nothing. But you keep pulling the lever because your brain is wired to seek patterns, to seek rewards, to seek that little hit of dopamine that comes from validation. And the platform knows this. The platform is designed around this. The platform is optimized to keep you pulling that lever as many times as possible. Now add payments to the mix. In the 2000s and 2010s, something shifted. Suddenly, you did not even need to enter your credit card information anymore. It was stored. It was saved. It was one click. Amazon patented the one-click purchase button in 1997. Think about that. They patented the idea of making buying so easy that you do not have time to think. You see a thing, you want the thing, you click, the thing arrives. You did not feel the money leave. You did not see the balance drop. You just clicked, and the thing came, like magic, like a miracle, like a trap. But even that was not frictionless enough. Enter the smartphone. Enter the app economy. Enter Apple Pay, and Google Wallet, and Venmo, and Cash App. Now you do not even click. You just tap. You just hover your phone over a reader, and it is done. The transaction happens in the background. You get a notification. Maybe. You swipe it away. You forget about it. The money is gone, but it does not feel gone because it was never really there to begin with. It was just numbers on a screen. Do you see what has happened? Do you see the progression? Cash to credit card, to one click, to tap to pay. Each step removing friction. Each step removing pain. Each step removing the psychological barrier that makes you stop and think, do I really need this? Can I afford this? What am I giving up to get this? And now, right now, in the 2020s, we have arrived at the final form. The subscription. The subscription model is the purest expression of the gilded cage. It is the lock clicking shut. Because here is what a subscription does. It turns a one-time decision into a permanent state. You sign up for a streaming service. You sign up for a meal kit. You sign up for a software platform. And every month, without you doing anything, without you thinking about it, money leaves your account. $10 here, $15 there, 20, 30, 50. How many subscriptions do you have right now? Can you name them all? Can you remember what they cost? Most people cannot. Most people have lost track. And that is the point. The subscription is not about providing value. The subscription is about creating dependency, about creating a baseline level of spending that you forget about, that you accept as normal, as necessary, as just the cost of living in the modern world. And if you try to cancel, well, they make that hard. They make you click through screens. They make you talk to a person. They offer you a discount. They make you feel guilty. They make you feel like you are losing something. They make you feel like your life will be worse without this thing that you probably were not even using. This is the cage. This is the lock. Every subscription is a bar. Every saved credit card is a bar. Every one-click purchase is a bar. Every app that knows your location is a bar. Every algorithmic feed that shows you things you did not ask for but suddenly cannot live without is a bar. And you cannot see the bars because they are made of convenience. They are made of comfort. They are made of the promise that life can be easy if you just stop resisting, if you just let go, if you just trust the system to take care of you. But here is the thing they do not tell you. The thing they cannot tell you, because the whole system collapses if you figure it out. Convenience is not free. Convenience costs you your attention. It costs you your time. It costs you your agency. Every time you outsource a decision to an algorithm, every time you let a platform choose for you, every time you accept the default option because it is easier than thinking, you are giving away a piece of yourself. You are giving away your autonomy. And autonomy is the only thing that separates a free person from a prisoner. Let me tell you about a study. In the early 2000s, researchers did an experiment with children and marshmallows. You have probably heard of it. The kid who can wait 15 minutes to eat one marshmallow gets 2 marshmallows as a reward. It was supposed to be about delayed gratification, about self-control. But here is what they found when they followed up with those kids years later. The ones who waited, who showed self-control, they did better in life. They had better grades, better jobs, better relationships. But it was not because they were inherently better people. It was because they had been taught that waiting pays off, that patience has value, that the future is real. Now think about what we are teaching people today. We are teaching them that waiting is unnecessary, that patience is obsolete, that the future does not matter because you can have everything now. Want to watch a movie? Stream it. Want food? Order it. Want a date? Swipe right. Want a loan? Click here. Want to feel better about yourself? Post a photo and wait for the likes to roll in. Everything is instant. Everything is immediate. Everything is now, now, now. And what happens to a person who never learns to wait? What happens to a society that never learns to wait? I will tell you what happens. They become impulsive. They become reactive. They become unable to plan for a future that is more than 5 minutes away. And when you cannot plan for the future, when you cannot delay gratification, when you cannot resist the shiny thing in front of you right now, you become controllable. You become predictable. You become farmable, like cattle, like crops, like resources to be extracted. This is the secret. This is the thing they do not want you to understand. The entire modern economy is built on the assumption that you will not say no, that you will not wait, that you will not resist, that you will keep swiping, keep clicking, keep tapping, keep subscribing until there is nothing left, until your bank account is empty, until your attention is shattered, until your time is gone, until your life has passed and you look back and wonder where it all went. The cage is not made of iron. The cage is made of convenience. And the lock is your inability to say no, your inability to be bored, your inability to sit with discomfort, your inability to want less. So how do you escape? How do you break free from a cage that you have been trained to love? The answer is simpler than you think, but harder than you can imagine. You have to reintroduce friction. You have to make things difficult again. You have to force yourself to feel the pain of spending. You have to delete the apps. You have to cancel the subscriptions. You have to leave your credit cards at home and carry cash. You have to feel the bills leave your hand. You have to count what remains. You have to look at the empty wallet and say, I cannot afford this. Not because you truly cannot afford it, but because you need to remember what it feels like to choose, to decide, to say no. You have to walk instead of drive. You have to cook instead of order. You have to read instead of scroll. You have to be bored. You have to sit in silence. You have to face yourself without the constant distraction of notifications and updates and messages. You have to remember what it feels like to be alone with your thoughts. And that is terrifying. That is why most people will never do it. Because the cage is comfortable. Because the lock is convenient. Because freedom is hard. But here is the truth they do not want you to know. The truth that will set you free if you let it. You do not need most of the things you think you need. You do not need the streaming services. You do not need the meal kits. You do not need the fast fashion. You do not need the next phone. You do not need the premium membership. You do not need any of it. What you need is time. What you need is attention. What you need is the ability to think clearly without being manipulated. What you need is your life back. And you can have it. You can have it right now. But you have to choose it. You have to choose discomfort over convenience. You have to choose freedom over ease. You have to choose the hard path. Because the easy path, the convenient path, the frictionless path leads exactly where it has always led, to a cage. A beautiful, comfortable, expensive cage. And you will never escape unless you first admit that you are trapped. The gilded cage is real. Convenience is the lock, and the key has been in your pocket the whole time. The question is, do you have the courage to use it?